Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today is the 400 subscriber question and answer video. I'm going to be going down the list of questions that have been asked to me and answering them to the best of my ability. But first, I want to thank every single one of you that has subscribed. This achievement could not have been possible without all of you making it happen. Every single last, now 446 subscriber is the reason that we've gotten here. This is not built on me. This is built on you guys. Everyone, congratulate yourself. This is a celebration of everyone involved in the community. The people that are subscribed, and me, and the comic, and everything surrounding it. All of that is what has brought us here today. I can barely wrap my head around the fact that it's gotten this much success. I can't thank any of you enough for bringing us to this point. And I really like to use the term us and not me, because this channel is for everyone. It's for everyone to have a conversation, whether it's good or bad, about the comic, about the creators, about the community. It is for everything surrounding this comic, and I think this channel has proven that people want a space just like this to continue talking about it in any way that they want, whether they agree or disagree with how things are going. With that all being said, let us start answering some questions. Let's see here. If modern medicine were to invent a cure for homosexuality, would you take it? Well, I know this is a joke question, but no, I wouldn't need to take it. Thank you very much. Also, homosexuality is not something that needs to be cured, but I get the joke. Why are you like this? As far as why I'm like this making videos about the webcomic, it's just kind of a hobby. It's just something to do. Something that will allow me to stretch my legs creatively that my other YouTube channel doesn't really have the room for. Using this channel, I've been able to increase my editing skills, my writing, my analysis, everything. Why am I like this? I guess I just want to improve on all of my different skills. Video recording, writing, editing, all of that. If you go back and look at the videos that I was making when I first started versus the stuff that I'm making now, it's like a night and day difference. It's like a completely different person took over the channel and started making videos. It really has been a huge inspiration for me and has continued to be an inspiration to me moving forward. It's also helped me write some of the more read fan fictions in the community. I think on Archive of Our Own, like the top 4 of the most read fan fictions are mine. Not trying to toot my own horn. There are a lot of fantastic fan fictions out there. Also, I guess it's a huge dose of copium that turned into something that I just didn't expect to get big, and now I'm continuing it because it got so big. Do you write fan fiction, and if so, any tips? Glencoe47. Also, any thoughts on a hypothetical Mike Alejandro team-up arc? So if you guys don't know who Glencoe47 is, he writes these science fiction type alternate universe fan fictions about Mike and some wars. I haven't admittedly looked too much into it because I've been busy working on a whole bunch of other projects. I got like 4 videos I'm writing on top of like 3 different stories that I'm writing. And that's on top of everything else that I do. You know, I live stream, I do all this other stuff. So unfortunately, I just really haven't been able to look into it too much. But go check out Glencoe's stuff. He's really fast at getting his stuff out, and he's written up a lot of creative concepts and ideas, and even Kazune-non has kind of gotten into it and been drawing some illustrations that kind of are pertaining to that story. Do I write fan fiction? Do I have any tips? Yeah, obviously I do. I just talked about that. So I am Comet Eastwoos on Archive of Our Own and fanfiction.net, just depending on whatever website you enjoy reading fanfiction on. I upload to both websites just to get as many people reading as possible. I have written Cream Color Joy, Not So Different, Scarf and Bow Part 1 and 2, 1 Second to Midnight, Deserve Love 2, I always forget I write that one, Kazuna and the Candyverse of Chaos, and Tales from the Candyverse. Do I have any tips? A lot of the reasoning and rationale behind those specific stories that I wrote are in the writer's commentaries for them at the end of the stories. But essentially, it's about taking a concept, or maybe like a really strong emotional beat, and writing that. Maybe taking inspiration from your real life or something else that you've seen. Taking the BCB characters and seeing how you can get them into that situation. Like, take these characters, come up with a situation, and how would they react? And once you get them into that situation, then ask more questions. What happens next? How do they feel about this? How do others feel about this? What are some roadblocks? Using Cream Color Joy as an example, initially it was only going to be that one first chapter. that little one-shot fluff piece. It's very fan fiction-y, if that makes sense. It's very much the guy and the girl, and they might have feelings for each other. They stay over at one other house, or there's some sleepover, and then the girl has a nightmare, or there's a storm and they're scared, and then they cuddle and then she feels better. Like that, we have seen that so many times. The storm sleepover trope has been used in so many fan fictions, including BCB fan fictions. Like Ad Libitum does this. There's a few others that I can't think of off the top of my head that have done this, but I know I've read them. It's a very fan-fiction-y trope. After I wrote that initial fluff piece, I was like, well, what happens next? How do they feel about this? What happens when Paulo and Daisy wake up the next morning? How does Paulo feel? How does Daisy feel? Where do they go moving forward? Do they talk about it? What are some roadblocks? Well, the obvious roadblock is Abby, who doesn't like Paulo, and he definitely doesn't want Paulo being with Daisy, so I wrote him doing that. That's essentially what you gotta do. Scarf and Bow Part 1 and 2, it's just one story. It's like, okay, what if Mike hung up on Sandy? Then what happens? Take the concept of Mike and Lucy cautiously letting each other back into each other's lives, both of them scared that the other's gonna hurt them again, but for different reasons. Come up with a story with that. What happens? What are some things that they can do? Oh, well, Mike wants to help Lucy get over her fear of water and help her learn to swim. That's a cool idea that the comic could explore, but it's never going to. How would Paulo and Daisy and David feel? Paulo would obviously be upset. How are you gonna wrap up the Alejandro stuff? How are you gonna wrap up the Sandy stuff? And you take all these ideas and these concepts and you just write them. You just ask questions and you answer them. And sometimes you have to sit down and think about it for a bit. Maybe if there's some downtime, or if you're driving, or if you're just sitting around at work, or if you're at school, maybe it's lunch, and you just write down whatever. If an idea pops into your head and you're like, I might want to use this later, just write it down. Put it down into Google Docs. That's what I did a lot. That's what I still kind of do sometimes when I'm particularly inspired by something. What do I think about a potential Mike and Alejandro team up arc? Well, I'm not really sure why they would need to team up. They both have very conflicting views and personalities. Alejandro is a very rude and mean and harmful individual, and he really hates Lucy and wants to hurt Lucy. I know that kind of also sounds like Mike in December, but Mike doesn't want to hurt Lucy. Like, he really cares about her. I'm not really sure, outside of introducing a third party that is like so big and bad that even Mike and Alejandro are like, we gotta team up together and fight it. But what would that be? I guess that's a question you have to answer. It's not something that I can give you. That would just be kind of a strange team up. Almost in a weird way, the fact that they're so opposite, or they have such like opposite positions in the comic, might make that an interesting concept. You just have to find a really strong reason for them to want to team up. Do you agree with Teshi that Abby and Mike have the smallest penises of the cast? Well, that's a wild question. I guess that I would have to agree with Teshi. I mean, they're her characters, and if she says that they have the smallest dong sizes, then I guess I just have to go with that. There's really no evidence in the comic to say otherwise, and allegedly there exists a penis size chart, but I've never seen it. According to the chart, according to legend, people say that Abby has the smallest, Mike is the next, then it's Paulo, then it's David. Without any evidence to the contrary, I guess I kind of just have to go with it. I don't really know how else to answer that question. Maybe it makes sense. Abby is angry all the time, so who knows if there's a correlation there. What's your name? My name is Rob, but you guys know this. Most people just call me Fanel Guy or whatever. Why do you still read BCB? I don't know. It's not sunk cost fallacy. It's more or less because I'm running this channel, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later. If it wasn't for the fact that this channel picked up, I probably might have faded out of reading it. I mean, I might still like check up on the updates and join like the co-threads or something, but I mean, if I had never gotten banned, I would have never known about that. I mean, I might still check up on it when it updated, but I might have just stopped reading it. I'm not really sure. I might have just been like, this is kind of boring. There's really nothing going on. I'm gonna come back after there's been substantial amount of time and read it kind of in one big lump instead of like hanging on the edge of my seat every other day. Well, now it's every week, waiting for the next update and just kind of being bored by that. I mean, it also would have been a huge surprise to me to come back like months or maybe years later and see, why haven't we progressed so much? And it's because they went to 1 day a week. Although I would be less frustrated because I wouldn't have had to sit through 1 day a week updates for date night. And depending how long I was away before coming back, New Year's resolution. So why do I still read it? Probably because the Fanel, honestly. Now I have made a lot of friends and met a lot of people through this community. Some people in real life that live somewhat close by me. So yeah, that was wild too. Any other servers besides BCB in which you were banned in? So I don't get banned from places. I only got banned from one other place, and that is a long story. It was a local fur group, but the person who was running it was a very bad person. And when I started to kind of fight back against that and start to speak out against that person, that's when I got banned. Now that sounds like copium, and I'm not gonna get into the whole story today, or probably not at all on this channel because it's completely unrelated to BCB. But that's the only place I've ever gotten banned from. Months later, when shit really hit the fan with the person running that group and everyone realized that I was telling the truth the whole time, that that person was crazy, I was unbanned, or I got inducted into the new group that had risen up from the ashes of that old one. As far as Discord servers, no, I'm not banned from any of them. It is strictly BCB, which is kind of crazy. Does that say more about me or more about how things are run in the BCB Discord? If you had the opportunity, where else would you like to take your channel? This channel was specifically created for Bittersweet Candy Bowl. There really isn't a reason for me to take it in another direction, as far as, I assume you mean talking about other webcomics. As far as I'm concerned, and this channel is concerned, and everyone watching it is concerned, and anyone involved, it's going to remain the Bittersweet Candy Bowl Fanel for years or months or days or weeks, who knows? It could just go on forever, ad infinitum. The comic seems to not be slowing down anytime soon, so who knows? And there's still like 100-something chapters to review. Like, there's just so much content to be made about BCB, which I know a lot of people are gonna laugh at that idea, but there really is. I mean, even if I run out of stuff to say about the comic, I still have to review every single chapter. There's tons of fan fictions to do dramatic readings of. There's the artist spotlights that I haven't even started to do, and there's just other things and character analyses and things that could be done. It continues forward, and on top of all the dubs that could be made and all the other projects that could be done, and like the BCB RPG that I still haven't beaten. So there really isn't anywhere else I would take it. It's just there really aren't any other webcomics that I would make a YouTube channel about. Maybe Sabrina Online, but if I branch out from the BCB Fanel, it's not gonna be on the Fanel. It would just be another YouTube channel. Now, I do have a secondary YouTube channel, Real Future Pictures, where I talk about 3D movies. I make my own 3D videos and talk about 3D stuff in general, but that's like a whole separate thing and it has nothing to do with webcomics, although I have made some BCB related videos on there. Will there ever come a point where you stop making BCB content and make something else? So like I just said, I do run another YouTube channel all about movies, 3D movies, and making 3D videos and talking about 3D media. I am going to be expanding that channel into talking about more than just 3D movies, but maybe focusing on more large format experiences as well, just to kind of give myself more videos to make, because there aren't really a lot of 3D movies that come out. It's like the 3D movies will come out in like summer and then December, and in between those like periods there's nothing. It's just like complete radio silence, but there's still other movies that I watch that aren't in 3D and I want to talk about those. So will there be a point that I stop? I mean, I guess technically all things have to come to an end. The BCB Fanel, I'm probably not going to be running that when I'm like 80 years old or 50 or 40. I mean, who knows? I don't know. The future is not set. It just depends on how long the comic goes and how long people are interested in the Fanel. I mean, once the comic ends, there's probably going to be a lot of people that stop showing up. I mean, if I make like a huge 5-hour long BCB retrospective once the entire comic is done, then a lot of people might watch that. But are people really going to be sticking around to the channel once everything's all said and done? It's like the peak has happened, it's all over with, so why continue to care about everything else that happened in the past? Some people will stick around, I don't know. Just from my perspective, I guess maybe sometime after the comic ends, but it really just depends on how long people stick around. What do you think the end of BCB will be like? It is so hard to say because Teshi is kind of, from my perspective, written herself into a corner, and I have no idea of how to predict anything in this comic or how it's going to end. The thing is, any way that I might possibly foresee it ending has been written out. There's no way to end it in any way that I personally would have thought about ending it, especially when you read things like Scarf and Bow. How do I think it'll end? Probably some confrontation with Alejandro, which leads to Mike and Lucy having like this huge life-changing revelation where they realize that they really can't live without each other for the 8th millionth time. They've been through this so many times. When you keep doing that, it doesn't stick. Every time Teshi writes the characters having this big emotional, I can't live without you, or I don't want to be without you, it lessens the impact because they keep fighting and then they make up and they fight, and it's like Eternal Flame was the final nail in that coffin. I don't care whatever excuse Mike has or whatever excuse Teshi wants to make. That was the opportunity to make it stick, and she was like, no. So I can only assume by doing that, she has no plans on getting Mike and Lucy together. They might be friends at the end, but I don't really see a Mike and Lucy relationship being satisfying or working after all of that. That would just be so weird. Not just for Mike to go back to her. Like, it might make sense that Mike might be interested in her, but he seems more interested in her as a friend at this point, and it would be extra weird for Lucy to take him back after all that shit that he pulled. So how do I think it'll end? Maybe Mike and Lucy are friends and things just go back to the way they were at the beginning of the comic, or maybe they get together. I don't know. I know you asked how I think it would end, and I don't know isn't a satisfying answer, but that's kind of where I'm at. There's no way to predict how it's gonna end. Any prediction I make could be completely wrong. I could come up with every possible permutation of ending, and Teshi will find the ending that I didn't think of. There'll be like an alien invasion or something. It's like the scene from Avengers Infinity War where Doctor Strange is like looking at all the possible combinations, and he looks at like millions of ways things could go, and he's like, oh, there's only one ending where things work out for us. It feels like that, basically, trying to guess the ending to this comic. Oh, and also, would you like to branch out into reading / reviewing other webcomics / media? So like I talked about, I do run another YouTube channel, Real Future Pictures, where I talk about movies, primarily 3D movies. I've already been through all this. If I talked about other webcomics, it would probably maybe just be a general webcomic channel focusing on things like Sabrina Online or VG Catch, or maybe Two Kinds. I've never really read Two Kinds. And there's like a few other webcomics that I've read, Jay Naylor's stuff I've read. I really don't have plans on moving on from this at this point. This is the focus, and I have my hands full. I tell you what, I got my hands full working on this comic. So that is not really something I'm thinking about. Best thing that ever happened while working at AMC: getting fired. What was the first time you ever saw something related to BCB? So it was actually a meme edit of this page from Model Girlfriend where Sandy demands to know why Mike won't just fuck her, and he comes back down the hill and says that it's because he's gay. I saw it on some meme website. I asked, where's this from? Because I'm like, wow, I like these character designs. And someone's like, oh, it's from a webcomic called Bittersweet Candy Bowl, and the rest is history. It feels like it's a canon event. It feels like that moment where if I had just not seen that picture, my life might have been it would have been completely different. It feels like one of those things where you look back and you were like, I had no idea such a small thing would impact my life so much. And that's why you gotta be really careful about the choices that you make or the things that you do, because one tiny split second, one itty bitty teeny tiny twitch of the finger or split second decision can radically change the course of your life. Now, I chose to go down this path. I didn't have to. Once I got banned from the BCB community, I could have just chose to walk away and just be done with the whole thing. But because of other life circumstances, I held on as tight as I could, and now here we are. I guess I kind of got off topic on that one, but yeah, it was this page right here, this meme edit. That's the long and short of it. Are you a furry? That is a complicated answer. I guess yes, but kind of not. I mean, like, yeah, I am, but I'm not in any local fur groups. I don't fursuit. I know you guys might have seen my fursuit partial up hanging above my bed. That is just for sentimental value. I don't ever wear it. In fact, ever since I put it up there when I first moved into this place, like over 2 years ago, I haven't touched it. It's just sat up there. Well, I mean, I might have brought it down once or twice to show people, but that's basically it. I don't go to local furry stuff. I don't even talk to the local furs or any other furries. The most furry thing I am involved with is Bittersweet Candy Bowl. And by Teshi and Suitcase's admission, it is not a furry comic, so I guess by that logic, the answer is no. But I do enjoy furry artwork, so I guess like yes and no. I don't really have any plans as of now to get back into local furry stuff or going to any fur cons. I never say never, of course. Conventions are fun. As of now, as far as anyone else is concerned, the answer is like a soft yes. So, you get one free reset in life. What would you do differently? So I assume this means I can go back and change any one decision rather than go back and completely restart my life. If I could go back and change any one thing, I probably wouldn't. Every single mistake that I made, every single decision that I've made has led me to being the person that I am today, for better or for worse. There are a lot of really terrible things that maybe I would want to go back and change, but if I changed those things, I never would have learned some very hard lessons that I needed to learn. I could go back and look at maybe not getting banned from the fur group originally, or maybe going back and not breaking up with my ex-girlfriend, or maybe going back to not posting that review on the BCB Discord. But any one of those things changing would not have brought me to this point. Everything would be completely different, and maybe things could be worse. I believe that looking back at any decision, there's a reason why it happened, but like not completely that. You look back and you can say, I'm glad that those bad things happened because now I'm in a better place. While I had to go through a lot of really hard times to get to where I am, I wouldn't have it any other way because I would not have had to learn those lessons to know for the next time how to not make those mistakes. Essentially, I wouldn't want to have to relive doing all those things, and because I already went through them, I know now how not to go through them again. So I probably wouldn't change anything. Besides, if I had never gotten banned from the BCB Discord, I never would have made the Fannel. I mean, maybe I would have made some BCB videos, and maybe eventually I would have made the Fannel, but it wouldn't have been the way it is now. But if someone had a gun to my head and said I need to go back in time and change any one thing, I probably would have picked up Luigi's Mansion instead of getting Sonic Heroes at that GameStop that one day. Where would you be if you never started the Fannel? Well, if I had just walked away from BCB, things probably wouldn't have been any different. I would have just been focusing on my main YouTube channel instead of running 2 YouTube channels, or I definitely have a lot more free time, that's for sure. Probably be doing a lot more live streaming and a lot more just lazing about playing video games. Not that I don't do that sort of thing, but I think that I would have definitely not acquired the skills, the editing skills that I have, or the writing skills that I've gotten. I mean, I'm not pretending I'm like any George R.R. Martin or Tolkien, but I definitely feel like my writing has increased since I've been reading BCB. And I know that sounds like, oh, BCB is making me a better writer, and a lot of people are going to scoff at that idea. It has gone a long way in showing me how to and how not to write a story, whether Teshi intended for it or not. To answer the question, I guess I wouldn't be anywhere different. I would just be here in this room making videos about movies, and that would be it. What's your dream job? I don't really know. I mean, I like entertaining people. I like telling stories. I guess maybe being a director and making epic fantasy movies on like large IMAX 3D formats and like really bringing people to these worlds and really putting people in those spaces and erasing the screen between the audience and the story that I'm telling, and really having the audience feel like they're a part of that story. That feels like such a storyteller thing to say, like, oh, I want people to be engrossed in the story. But but I do. I take a lot of value in large premium formats and extra formats like 3D, and I think those things go a long way in adding to the entertainment and the engagement of a story. For the most part, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's a little weird, but I would say for the most part, those things have definitely increased my enjoyment of a lot of movies. Not that those things can supplement story or characters or anything else. The movie itself has to be good because the effects can only be as good as the movie and the story is. What would be the actual breaking point that would make you stop reading? Well, if it was an Eternal Flame, I don't know what possibly it could be. I think at this point I have accepted that the story is going to be as wacky and as wild and nonsensical as possible. Once you accept that, like, you can just get through anything the comic throws at you. Like, you can sit there and be baffled by story decisions and be like, why would you do this? Why are the characters acting this way? But you'll still, like, keep reading. Like I said, it's not sunk cost fallacy. It's just, I can't really think of anything that would make me stop reading. I don't feel like there's anything Teshi hasn't already written that she can't throw at me now that would make me go, you know what? I'm done. I'm out. This is too stupid even for me, and I don't even care how it ends. I'm done wasting my time. Certainly, I think having to run the panel has helped a lot in keeping me on board. There might have been 1 or 2 points where I just wanted to throw my hands up and say, you know what, I'm out. I haven't really been close, but I guess like the closest I've ever started to lean that way was probably during On Call, where I was like, you are digging yourself a deeper hole. This doesn't make me understand Mike's decision anymore. And if anything, this intermission is proof of why it makes no sense why Mike would take Sandy back when the whole time he's thinking about Lucy and he's mad at Sandy. He should have just hung up on her and go to bed. So I don't know what the breaking point would be. I guess I don't know that until it happens. And that is all the questions. Thank you guys so much for watching this channel, for continuing to support, for all the likes and the comments and the engagement and the being hyped for the projects. We got a lot of fun stuff coming down the pipeline. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. It just blows me away that people are willing to come around every week and listen to me ramble on about some niche cat webcomic. It's just amazing. I can't really put in the words. I've said like everything I've wanted to say or could have said about this whole thing. It can't happen without you guys. You guys are the building blocks. And sure, I'm the one that's kind of laid out that blueprint, but a blueprint doesn't build something. It's just a piece of paper. It's just a concept, a potential. And you guys are the kinetic energy that comes from that potential energy. And that is what is continuing this channel. The fact that it has continued to grow is what is inspiring me and keeping me going. Not that I'm not interested in making these videos, I enjoy the creativity side of things, but you guys have certainly helped me keep going through thick and thin, through bad times and the good times, and any times that are gonna come up in the future. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, from everything within me, for being there for me during everything that's happened to me throughout the last 2 years. I can only hope that I can continue to repay that support going into the future, to come up with new and exciting and interesting ideas that'll help keep you guys interested and entertain you guys. It's the most important thing. As long as I'm entertaining you guys, that's what it's important. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Suitcase, for banning me on that day and inspiring me to make this YouTube channel. And I will see you guys next time.